In terms of OECMs and offshore renewable energy, we absolutely would not see offshore renewable energy being part of an MPA. In fact, Birdwatch is part of BirdLife Europe and Central Asia, and even offshore renewable energy wouldn't be a feature within OECMs. OECMs have an incredibly high standard of conservation that they have to deliver in order to be considered OECMs. And that's not reflected in the bill either. There's no definition of the kind of activities that can be allowed within an OECM. And that's a real concern because it's assumed that offshore renewable energy can fit within OECMs and therefore contribute to 30 by 30. Birdwatch wouldn't even see OECMs being part of 30 by 30. They're an additional tool that can deliver conservation benefits. And some of those, I suppose, really stringent criteria relate to OECMs. If they're going to be included, they really need to provide very high standards in terms of ecological representation and similar and the same equivalent conservation benefits that an actual MPA would deliver. And the nature of offshore renewable energy and many OECMs is that they just simply can't do that because they're introducing new or alternative habitat. They don't benefit the entire ecosystem within that. They might benefit one or two species perhaps, but it's not an ecological representation. So that would be some of the things. In terms of the overall ambition and in relation to our existing commitments, there's a lot of gaps, I guess, in terms of habitats directives and birds directives. There's clarity needed on the IUCN lists that would be included for identification of potential marine protected areas. At the moment, we have 23 of Ireland's 24 breeding seabirds on amber or red lists, and the vast majority of those wouldn't be considered threatened under the IUCN lists. So that's a real concern to us.
Could I sorry to interrupt you. What is the biggest factor threatening those 23 of the 24 species? What's the number one factor? It
is a mixture of things, but the report completed by, under the NPWS Article 17 reporting, I think it was, in 2019, offshore renewable energy, whether it was wind, so on, was the top threat there.
But sorry, in our case, of our 23 of 24, we only have one offshore array at the moment. What's in Ireland, in the Irish airspace, let's say?
So that was looking at threats and pressures, so I guess it was considering, I suppose, into the future as well.
Oh, future threats. Okay, sorry, okay. Yeah.
But in terms of current threats, you know, we have SPAs designated, but they're not implemented in full at all, and that's a major concern. And also this bill wants to incorporate those areas into our 30% commitment or into the MPA network. And it's a real weakness then if we are not actually implementing those directives. Like the bill really needs to outline how it's going to enforce those existing obligations and make sure that we're not just putting an MPA stamp on those areas that aren't delivering on their commitments at the moment. We don't have management plans for all of our SPAs.
Sure, yeah, so. Yeah. And land-based, that's an issue as well on
exactly,
our
yeah.
systems. Okay, I'm sorry.